Hey guys, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and I am back today with another episode of r/TreeLaw. This lady on Facebook suggesting just anyone can come take this tree down, shaking my head. Dead ash tree, open for removal by yourself and make your money, do not pay me. It's actually quite common for people to take down trees in exchange for the wood. My family did it all the time. With that being said, that's a big butt tree close to houses, so you need more than just a chainsaw and a tractor, and really need to know what you're doing. Same. I've harvested a few this way for winters. My girlfriend's dad's buddy does this and referred me to him for a couple dead maples in my yard. The small one my dad and I just cut down, but the other is between power lines, the house, and fence. I'll have an insured professional take care of that one, lol. I did one at work recently. Tire business, not tree cutters. It was against the building, power lines blocking the only good felling angle, and an air vent the other way. Started from the top and worked my way down. Others were scared to try it. Yeah, I think we could manage it, but if something goes horribly wrong, then I don't want to give my insurance company a reason to deny a claim, lol. Also, I want to avoid my garden beds getting smashed to pieces, so someone with skill and experience might be warranted. Don't get me wrong, that was within my comfort zone. If it doesn't feel right, I won't do it. I agree with you completely. Yeah, this is really more on her. I'd let Joe Blow come and take a dead tree way out in my pasture. Even then, what if they drop it on their head? But next to the house, I'd be dang sure they were bonded and insured. Plus, most people aren't as likely to do it for ash, but say you had a big old walnut tree, people would jump at the chance to come grab it. People do it for firewood, and ash is better quality than that. Reminds me of the early days of Craigslist, with a post saying something like, "Free plants and landscape materials. You dig, pull, move what you want. Everything must go before we put in the new landscaping on Monday." People showed up and dug out every plant, tree, rock, etc. If memory serves me correct, people may have even taken sod and fence panels. They completely destroyed a nicely landscaped home. Plot twist, the owner didn't make the post and returned from vacation to find their home destroyed. That's brutal. Yeah, that is brutal. Like, really brutal. Oh my gosh, that's honestly terrifying. So, first of all, with people just like taking down the tree and like doing it for the wood or whatever, it's really not that uncommon. I just do find it concerning for the person. Like, they must really have a lot of trust in these random people to not cause any damage when they take the tree down. Maybe they're just somehow assuming that like the people who would come to do it know what they're doing, but that's a pretty dangerous assumption, I feel like. But yeah, the idea that some random person can just post something and put your address up there and like say something like, you know, take all the stuff that you want, and no one's there to stop you, that's just scary. That's really scary. I know like people have done that with different people's houses, like put postings up for them for sale, and like they'll have people come to their house and they'll be like, "Oh, we're here for showing," and they're like, "What are you talking about? Because they're not selling your house." Tenants in New Jersey chopping tree for fun. I have a tenant whose kids are taking an axe and hitting 5 trees in the yard. I am definitely worried about them dying and possibly falling. The trees are all pretty old and tall. I want to say maple trees, and one is a pine tree. I don't know how to attach pictures on here, sorry, but I advise the tenant that if the trees die, then they are her responsibility, and it can become quite costly for her. I started thinking it over with my husband, and now I'm not sure whose responsibility it will be, ours or theirs. I don't even know who to call to assess for the damage and to see if the trees will be able to survive much longer. I'm worried about the tree falling on either our house or the neighbors, which I can only imagine we would be the responsible party if that were the case. Can anyone give me any advice at all on where even to start with this? It's Burlington County, if that makes a difference. They are damaging your property in a way that is not allowed by their lease. It's no different than the kids throwing axes at the wall or through windows, or beating on the appliances with a baseball bat, except it can be much more expensive to remedy. Normally, if your tree falls on a neighbor's property, their insurance handles it, but if you know the trees are damaged and could fall and don't address it in a timely manner, it could revert back on you. Call an arborist today to come assess the health of the trees, and call your lawyer to see what you need to do, draft a letter, etc., to prevent further damage and or get recompense for damage done. If the trees are not salvageable, please find a lawyer who is very familiar with tree law in your state. The tenants may not be liable for just the cost of cutting down the trees or planting saplings. They may be responsible for the cost of replacing the trees with ones of like size, age, and health. But hopefully you can just wrap the lower 6 feet of the trees in something to protect them and to let them heal. If it goes far enough to build animosity, schedule a home inspection ASAP and video/photograph everything inside, including the inside of appliances and fixtures. That will be a deterrent to them trashing things in revenge, but I'm really hoping the parents will be cooperative. Wow, that was really thorough. Thank you. I'm not sure about being allowed inside the house though. They have been there for 4 years, but things have been escalating since about March, very suddenly, so not really sure what's going on. We were called by a neighbor who told us about there being garbage on the lawn, which is what prompted us going there to begin with, and I happened to notice the trees as a result. I am not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure in most places landlords are allowed to inspect the property if they've given reasonable and written notice. CYA here because they seem like the scorched earth type. Prevention is ideal though. Okay, yeah, I think that's what it is. That we have to give reasonable notice to go inside. And yes, I agree. Draft a letter informing them that it's a regular inspection and also take the time to do something that you might need maintenance-wise. Has the HVAC been serviced recently? Are there filters that might need to be changed that haven't been changed, etc.? Don't make it super obvious. We're here to make sure you're not trashing the place. Honestly, on multi-year leases, you should have a yearly inspection, and it should be clear in the lease to do so. Partially, it's to make sure you are upholding your responsibilities for maintenance as landlord, making sure that there's nothing that is broken that they think is too small to mention, and that they are upholding their responsibilities per the lease. If they're responsible for maintenance, like changing filters and getting the HVAC serviced, this makes it more important to do these sorts of inspections because you don't want to have to buy a new HVAC because the tenants didn't take the agreed upon action. I had a friend with 10-year tenants who we stopped by to be there for an estimate for some work that is going to be done, and his tenants were like, oh, by the way, we haven't had hot water for several weeks, and he had to be like, you need to tell me these things. Yeah, first of all, who wouldn't tell their landlord that they haven't had hot water for several weeks? I find that concerning. I personally would very quickly want someone to fix that problem. If not for the showers, like washing dishes, no, why would, that's not a small thing. Who lives for several weeks without, like, even bothering to say? They must be really nice people, or just used to not having hot water. I don't know. That's strange to me, but it's okay. Another thing I thought was interesting though with this particular case is the concept of seeing the tree as valuable property as much as like the house. So like I wouldn't have thought like, oh, damage to the tree is like damaging the house walls or fixtures or whatever else, right? Like that doesn't, it's not something I would think of. But I guess technically if you think of it monetarily and value-wise, etc., it is basically that way. So that's definitely a new like mental take, I feel like, on trees and their value. Don't mind the tree that we sort of murdered, that I think we might as well just call it a zombie tree back there. It came back to life partially, and then it died on one half of it. It's a whole thing. Y'all told me how to like kill it dead, so it would just be the stump, the very tall trunk stump, but we didn't. So owning and maintaining protected trees. Hi, I had some neighbors from the street over come by today with concerns about a large tree growing from my backyard that extends across the alleyway and into theirs. They claim that the branches that encroach their property look dead and are worried it will be a safety hazard in the future. They were wondering if we were going to do anything to maintain the tree or deal with the situation. I'm not too familiar with tree law or anything related, but I quickly did some research after the discussion. I'm from Toronto, and it appears that, unless I have misread, trees with a diameter of 30 centimeters or more are considered significant trees. They are protected by the city, which means I would need a permit to alter it in any way that could harm the tree, which I'm guessing includes pruning the branches and maybe other types of maintenance methods. This bylaw, as well as potential harm if left unchecked and legal issues that could arise in the future, have put me in an awkward situation where I'm not sure what my options are. I believe the first steps would be to contact an arborist, but I'm not even really sure what services I'm looking for. Does anyone have any insight or perspective on these types of situations? Thank you for your time in advance.
If you're going by the information contained on this page, you're not trying to injure, remove, or cut down the tree, right? You simply want a couple of branches trimmed, which doesn't require a permit. The City of Toronto does not regulate the trimming of trees on private property. Where a tree on private property is protected under provisions of the Private Tree Bylaw or Ravine and Natural Feature Protection Bylaw, pruning of the tree is permitted provided the pruning is in accordance with good arboricultural standards. Otherwise, a permit would be required to injure or destroy the tree. A qualified tree expert should always be retained to carry out tree pruning. There are also several pages that specifically discuss that removal of dead/dangerous branches and how your neighbors could legally go ahead and trim them without your input. I'm not a Canadian lawyer, but that seems pretty clear, no?
I'm not an expert in Canadian or American tree, but my understanding is that people typically have the right to trim branches that cross into their property, even if the branches are from a tree that's not on their property. If I'm correct, that would mean your neighbors might be able to trim the branches at their own expense. For example, hiring an arborist. No idea how any of this would be impacted by the size of your tree though. As you said, it's quite large. And again, not an expert, so I would wait for more experienced folks from the subreddit to weigh in. In the meantime, I did find some general guidance about trimming branches in Toronto. See this link. I also found an article about general Canadian tree law. Here's this link.
Since you're in Toronto, I strongly suggest calling 311. They should point you towards specific city divisions or codes nuances that the subreddit can't provide. As an aside, last time I called 311 in Toronto, you had the option to pick from 4 different genres of music while on hold, so that's neat.
Okay, but that is really cool, okay, because normally I don't get an option. Do you get an option? Do normal people actually get an option of the wait or hold music that they get on the phone? Because typically for me, it's passive aggressive messages to end the call. You know what I mean? It's not even music half the time. Sometimes there's a little somewhere in the background or something every now and then. But usually it's
all of our customer representatives are currently helping other callers. Please wait. Your call is very important to us. You are third in line. Your wait time is approximately 15 minutes. Did you know we have a website where you can handle all of these problems and get yourself help a lot faster? In fact, you can find us here at this website address. Please log on and hang up the phone because we really don't want to have to keep answering phone calls for questions that can be easily answered on our website. Thank you. Your call is very important to us.
You know what I mean? Every time I'm on certain ones, they repeat over and over. Did you know you could fix this problem online? If I could fix it online, I would have already done it, okay? I'm having some kind of problem that can only be solved by calling you because otherwise I wouldn't be on the phone. I hate phone calls, okay? Okay. But I do think it's interesting. In general, tree law seems to have helped us understand that in general, if the branches of a tree are hanging over your area, you get to like trim it as long as you're not doing damage. So yay, TreeLaw, we're learning. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really quickly, I'd like to thank my patrons. Up on the screen, you should see my face palmers and my crazy K's. Thank you all so much for supporting me in that way. If you are interested in becoming a patron, checking out the original posts from today's video, or sending me an email for possible inclusion in a future video, all of that information is in the description box, so be sure to check it out. And I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!